Welcome to Kathy's Eclectic Garden. I'm Kathy and I garden in zones 5B, 6A in Northwest Ohio. Today I want to talk to you about Agastache. We'll be right back. Today I'm going to share with you a couple of the Agastache I have grown in my garden. This one that we are looking at here is called Agastache Rose Mint. It's a giant hyssop. Its Latin name is Agastache pallidiflora, and this is the subspecies Neo-Mexicana. It's also called New Mexico giant hyssop, Bill Williams giant hyssop, anise hyssop, and rose mint. It is hardy in zones 4 to 10. It's an annual in some areas or a tender perennial. It likes full sun, and it definitely gets full sun where I have it planted. I also have it planted in a pot, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. It blooms in early summer to mid-fall. It gets 1 to 3 feet high and spreads 1 foot. I have got, I believe, 2 plants in this pot, so it's definitely more than 1 foot spread. It's drought tolerant, low maintenance, non-fertile soil, and you can plant it in just about any kind of soil, but it needs to be well drained. It doesn't like to have wet feet at all. Now the reason I have this planted in a pot is because in Northwest Ohio we have clay, heavy clay, and this plant does not like clay soil, and I know that because I had it planted a couple of years ago in ground, and it grew. It got maybe a foot tall, if that, and it tried to come back the next year, but it just couldn't. It just didn't like the clay soil. So I've got this one growing in a pot in a garden mix or a potting mix, and it is loving it. Now I started this indoors, and if you're going to start it indoors, you should start it 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date. But you can plant it outdoors by seed as long as you wait until after frost has passed. It likes a winter mulch of pine needles or rocks because they don't harbor water. Like I said before, this plant does not like to have wet feet. You want to leave this standing all winter and wait and cut it back in spring, and this will help encourage it to come back and be a perennial. It's not susceptible to pests or diseases, but it can be affected by mildew in dry seasons. So this is anise hyssop rose mint. Now let's go to the other side of the garden and visit the anise hyssop blue fortune. This is anise hyssop Agastache foeniculum, and it is a native Agastache. So was the rose mint. I do want to mention the rose mint is native in the southwestern United States, but it grows all over. And this particular anise hyssop is native pretty much all around us in Ohio, but it's not native to Ohio, but I love it. It is a butterfly and pollinator attractor, and I just love having it in my garden. This has licorice-scented leaves, and as you can see, it blooms a light purple. It is edible. It has, with the licorice-scented leaves, you can make a tea from it. It's also called blue giant hyssop. It's in the mint family. It has a square stem like all mints do. It's hardy in zones 5 to 9, likes full sun to part shade, and mine gets full sun all day long. This anise hyssop gets 2 to 3 feet tall and spreads 1 to 2 feet, and it's not as big as it normally gets. This patch of Agastache is usually easily twice as big as it is this year, but for some reason, with the weather we've had, none of my plants in my garden are as big as they normally are, so I don't know what's going on with that. It's drought tolerant, it's low maintenance. Unlike the rose mint, this particular Agastache will grow in clay, and I've been growing it in this spot for probably at least 4 years. It likes dry to moist, well-drained soil, and like I said, it is native, but not in Ohio. I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the video, but this Agastache right now is covered in little tiny honeybees. At least I think they're honeybees. There are also some bumblebees on it, like was on the rose mint, but this one just has these little tiny bees flying everywhere. There's at least a couple dozen on this plant. This plant is starting to die back. Now they say you can deadhead it to get more flowers, but I have never deadheaded mine because I hate deadheading plants when the pollinators are flocking to it. So I just let it go, and they will keep coming back to this plant well into fall. Hopefully you can see the bees in this one. My videographer's chasing bees around, trying to get some good pictures so you can see all the bees. I do want to mention this plant will come back on its own. It is a perennial, and it'll come back in the same spot, but it will self-seed. And I started out with 2 plants here. Now I have 3. And I do have one in another area of my garden, but I planted that one. I don't think it was a self-seeder. But yeah, it's a nice plant. If you don't have Agastache growing in your garden, I hope this video will encourage you to grow some. Thank you for watching. I am standing here beside my sneezeweed, and it is covered in pollinators. It's in full bloom right now, and it's one of my favorite native plants. You might want to look into getting some of that too. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.